Excellencies, Ministers, Ambassadors, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. First, would like to thank the Ministry of External Relations, External Affairs of India, and the organizers of this dialogue for inviting me to be part of the event. And I'd like to thank His Excellency Minister Anand Sharma for his insightful address, which leave me almost nothing to add, but I try to do that from the ASEAN perspective. And since ASEAN embarked on the process of building an ASEAN community, much of ASEAN external relations approach has been governed by and been connected to this community building process. And you won't see much of this connection in my presentation. And in that sense, 5 years of implementation of the roadmap for the ASEAN community, since it was adopted, to date less than 2 years before the deadline of December 2015. Overall, about 80% of the measures due under the 3 ASEAN community blueprints have been implemented. And the result of the implementation of the blueprints over the past 5 years has changed fundamentally the landscape of ASEAN in each of the 3 pillars of the community. Would enhance the political cohesion, economic integration, social responsibility, and the narrow gap of development within and among member states, and the fact that ASEAN has become more connected, not only physically but also institutionally and people to people. The standing of ASEAN in the region and in the world has been elevated to a higher level politically, with peace, security and stability in our region basically ensured. ASEAN has been increasingly speaking with one voice on regional and global issues of common interest and concern. Economically, substantial gains have been achieved in eliminating tariffs, facilitating trade and investment, integrating capital and aviation markets, enhancing food security, narrowing the development gaps, and promoting cooperation with external partners, and all this contributing to the ASEAN ability to sustain growth in the region despite the recent global economic and financial crisis. And socially, with the promotion of education and youth and cultural exchanges, and the progress in the implementation of the ASEAN Agreement on Disaster Management and Emergency Response, and other projects and operations in humanitarian assistance. Greater attention and this paid to disadvantaged groups such as people with disability and elements of a caring and sharing society are emerging in ASEAN. And overall, with approximately 20% of the measures left for implementation in the next 2 years, ASEAN is basically, we can say, on track in community building. And such progress has strengthened ASEAN itself as a platform for dialogue and cooperation to preserve and enhance peace and security, and a locomotive for open trade, investment, economic growth in the region, while maintaining its unity and diversity and its essential role in the regional mechanisms. The positive impacts of such progress in the process of community building on external relations are reflected in the number of non-ASEAN countries having acceded to the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in South Asia, or the TAC, which is 22 of late, with 2 applications pending approval, and in the number of countries having appointed the envoy to ASEAN, which is 78. And those positive impacts also find expression in the fact that ASEAN relations with all major partners of ASEAN have moved far beyond trade, investment, economic cooperation to more comprehensive partnership encompassing joint projects and programs in all major spheres of activity. In that context, with confidence in the prospect of a three-pillar community established by 2015, ASEAN has already started work on the post-2015 vision with the view to setting a firm foundation for a stronger ASEAN community. And while concrete elements of such a vision are still to be developed, there has been broad agreement on trust among the member states, which share the view that since community building is a process, a work in progress, the post-2015 vision should be one to enhance and consolidate ASEAN community building through a continued but deeper and more process of integration, and more comprehensive process of integration. The ultimate objective is to build an ASEAN that is politically cohesive, economically integrated, and socially responsible. An ASEAN people-oriented, people-centered, and rule-based, an ASEAN community were integrated into the global community of nations. And that should be a vision addressing the needs of ASEAN in the new phase of development. And while integration and peace and stability remain the preconditions for the region's economic growth, and this post-2015 vision would lay a greater focus on improving the living conditions of the 600 million people of ASEAN. And thus, the vision should set concrete goals in expanding trade, investment, and economic growth, poverty reduction, and narrowing the development gaps with a view to ensuring equitable development and sustainable development for all members of the association. And both as part of and as a contributor to the realization of this vision, ASEAN would continue to promote and strengthen its external relations, first and foremost with its immediate East Asian partners, and a strong, united, and prosperous ASEAN community will be an important factor for ensuring peace, stability, and prosperity in the East Asian and Asia-Pacific region. And as one of the two partners, and they happen to be the two biggest partners, population-wise, physically connected to ASEAN, with many historical and cultural similarities, and has great many shared interests, India has and always been, and will always be, one of the most important partners of ASEAN, and especially in the context of ASEAN's enhanced community building process. In fact, since India became a dialogue, first a sectoral dialogue partner in 1992, and subsequently a full dialogue partner of ASEAN in 1995, ASEAN-India relations have grown rapidly. The relations were further elevated with the convening of the inaugural ASEAN-India Summit in 2002. Another important milestone is the elevation of the relation to strategic partnership in 2012 at the ASEAN-India Commemorative Summit to mark the 20th anniversary of the ASEAN-India dialogue relations, and where the leaders of ASEAN and India adopted the ASEAN-India vision statement, which served as a roadmap for ASEAN and India to work towards an enduring partnership for peace and shared prosperity. As we continue to implement the initiative contained in that vision statement, the task at hand for us is to ensure that the implementation is effective, with high impact and mutually beneficial cooperation projects and activities. And let me highlight salient areas in which we see efforts need to be redoubled. First, in the vision statement, the leaders of ASEAN and India expressed their strong commitment to realize the trade and economic potential of the strategic partnership. with a combined market of over 1.8 billion people and a GDP of 3.8 trillion US dollars, as well as relative geographical proximity. There are huge potentials waiting to be tapped in the ASEAN-India trade, investment, and economic cooperation. While the ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement was already signed in 2009, the agreements on trade in services and investment have been concluded and legally scrapped are yet to be signed, and these agreements should be signed and ratified as soon as possible. And I'm pleased to inform you that with the remaining minor procedural matters being resolved, we can expect the agreement to be signed coming May during the on the sideline of the ASEAN summit. We also need to promote and devise measures to ensure that the businesses, private sector, of India and ASEAN will both and all benefit from these agreements. Deeper private sector engagement is also vital to enhance our economic relations. I believe that with concerted efforts, and we'll be able to achieve the target of 100 billion US dollars worth trade for ASEAN and India by 2015. Also, we hope that you also be able to increase the tariff-free line also by 2015. And given the importance of the regional comprehensive economic partnership to both ASEAN and India, the two sides, in a phased approach, focusing on delivering on the key issues, the core issues, identified in the guiding principles, should work together to ensure that the negotiations be concluded by the end of 2015 as having been targeted. And second, ASEAN is embarking on a bold and long-term strategy to improve the region's physical, institutional, and people-to-people connectivity. Enhance ASEAN connectivity would promote ASEAN centrality in the regional architecture, facilitate the building of an ASEAN community, and serve as a foundation for enhanced connectivity, not only between ASEAN, among ASEAN countries, but between ASEAN and our partners. And this is in line with the commitment of the leaders in that vision statement to further strengthen ASEAN-India connectivity. Expanding and improving the road, maritime and air linkages will be crucial to further increase ASEAN-India trade and investment, and the development of the Mekong India Economic Corridor, the early construction of the new India, Myanmar, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia highway, and the extension of the India, Myanmar, Thailand trilateral highway to the Laos, and Cambodia would promote transport infrastructure linkages and hence contributing to the transport infrastructure linkages, and hence contributing also to the increase in two-way trade, investment, tourism, and people-to-people connectivity. At the same time, ASEAN-India air connectivity could be strengthened by working towards greater liberalization of air services, both in cargo and passenger aviation. And in this connection, the ASEAN-India Air Services Agreement should be concluded as soon as possible. Concrete ways and means should be explored to support the master plan on ASEAN connectivity in areas where India has advantages and strong expertise and interest, and regular exchanges between the ASEAN Connectivity Coordinating Committee and India's Interministerial Group on Connectivity would be essential to advance ASEAN connectivity and ASEAN-India connectivity. Third, on another area of importance to our partnership, which is information and communication. ASEAN-India cooperation in information and communication technology, particularly in the digital connectivity, through sharing of best practices in policy, regulations, and technological development and capacity building programs should be further encouraged. Fourth, the leaders of ASEAN and India also stressed the importance of strengthening social cultural cooperation and people-to-people interaction in that vision statement. ASEAN-India collaboration in this broad area has expanded to include human resource development, science and technology, people-to-people contacts, health and pharmaceuticals, transport infrastructure, and SMEs, tourism, information and communication technology, agriculture, and energy. In order to promote dynamism in this area of cooperation, ASEAN and India need to collaborate to implement concrete activities in culture, education, youth, sports, creative industries, science technology, information and communication technology and software, and human resource development, as well as scholarly exchanges. And also there is need to enhance contact between parliamentarians, media personnel, academics, and structural institutions, as we have designed. Fifth, ASEAN and India need to continue the momentum gained in the cooperation to support the narrowing of the development gaps in ASEAN. And India has been contributing to the narrowing of the development gaps in ASEAN through the implementation of a number of high-impact projects and programs. And India's effort and support to the initiative for ASEAN integration by implementing programs in entrepreneurship training, English language, and the ICT have contributed greatly to enhance the capacity of the CLMV countries, the new members of ASEAN, as stressed by the leaders of ASEAN in India in the vision statement. Enhancing cooperation in bridging the gap of development need to be continued and further promoted. And six, ASEAN and India need to work closely to strengthen cooperation in agriculture and food security, as well as promote cooperation in tourism, space science, ICT, and climate change mitigation and environment protection. In addition, ASEAN and India need to expand their cooperation in energy security, renewable energy, and disaster management. And seventh, people-to-people exchange is a key component to further cultivate our partnership. And there is need to continue to promote people-to-people interaction through, among others, university networking, young business leaders programs, religious and cultural exchanges, and continue the existing exchange programs for students, diplomats, farmers, and the media, as I have mentioned. And eight, ASEAN and India need to strengthen their consultations and cooperation through making full use of the existing multilateral fora, such as the ASEAN Regional Forum, the ASEAN-Europe meeting, the East Asia Summit, where India has been a strong supporter of ASEAN's central role, as well as at the United Nations and other bodies within the UN system, where more than with any other partner, ASEAN shares with India same positions on most important regional and global issues, and where India is well known and is respected for its promotion of the culture of non-violence, and ASEAN for its consistent support for the principle of non-use of force in international relations and in the settlement of dispute. And this is to forward our common positions, to defend and advance the fundamental interests of ASEAN in India and in building a sound multilateral system in the interests of peace and prosperity. And finally, as ASEAN and India, the ASEAN-India partnership will keep evolving, and we need to see that the reviews be undertaken of cooperation programs to ensure possible adjustment to enable them to respond to the needs of both sides in their respective new stages of development, and the outcome of the deliberations such as those in this dialogue can be meaningful contribution to the result of those reviews. And with that, I wish you successful deliberations.